All right, let's break this down step by step. Sculpting arms that not only look great but also perform at their best isn't about random gym sessions or chasing the pump for a quick Instagram shot. It's about following evidence-based techniques and applying them consistently over time. So today, we'll go through a clear, practical roadmap for building sculpted arms the right way. First things first, the arms aren't just about biceps. That's the muscle everyone flexes in the mirror, sure, but 2/3 of your upper arm mass actually comes from the triceps. Ignoring them is like trying to build a house with only half the walls. Balanced growth requires you to hit both biceps and triceps with structured, targeted work. Second, let's talk about exercise selection. Not all curls or pushdowns are created equal. For biceps, you want a mix of movements that challenge the muscle in different ranges of motion, something like incline curls to hit the stretched position, in concentration curls to finish with peak contraction. For triceps, overhead extensions will stretch them fully, while raise downs will overload the shortened range. That combination ensures you're not leaving gains on the table. Third, progressive overload is your best friend here. If you're curling the same weight for the same reps week after week, you're not building much muscle. You need to push the boundary gradually, more reps, more sets, more weight over time. That's the language muscles understand, and that's how sculpted arms get built. Finally, recovery is the silent partner in this process. You can't just hammer your arms every single day and expect them to grow. Muscles grow outside the gym. Not during the workout. Proper rest, good nutrition, and intelligent programming will allow your arms to recover and come back bigger and stronger. Think of it as watering and resting the soil after planting a seed. You don't just stomp on it every day and expect a tree to sprout. Stick to these principles, be patient, and your arms won't just look sculpted, they'll perform better, feel stronger, and stand out in a way that screams both aesthetics and function. All right, let's dig deep into this first key point, because if we don't get this one right, the rest of the arm training plan doesn't even matter. Everyone wants bigger arms, sculpted arms, arms that not only look good in a t-shirt but also carry strength and balance. But here's the thing. Most people have a completely one-sided view of what arm training means. They walk into the gym, grab some dumbbells, start curling until their forearms are screaming, and then think, yeah, I smashed arms today. The problem, that's only half the story. The arms aren't just about biceps. In fact, the majority of your upper arm mass, about 2/3 of it, comes from the triceps. That means if you want big, balanced, sculpted arms, you absolutely have to prioritize both muscle groups, not just the flashy one you see in the mirror. Now, let's think about what this imbalance looks like in real life. Picture the guy who only does curls every time he trains. Sure, his biceps might pop a little when he flexes, but when you see him from the side or from behind, his arms look flat and underdeveloped. It's like putting a spoiler on a car with no engine. You're focusing on the show muscle and completely ignoring the muscle that actually gives your arms their full shape and size. The triceps are the meat of the arm, the structure that makes your arms look thick and powerful. When they're underdeveloped, no amount of curling will give you that full sculpted look. So the first principle here is balance. Don't train like an arm amateur. If you're hitting biceps hard, make sure triceps are getting equal love, if not more. But let's go deeper into why this balance matters beyond just aesthetics. Functionally, your triceps are involved in every pressing movement, bench press, overhead press, dips, you name it. They're the supporting cast that stabilizes and powers your pushing strength. If your triceps lag behind, your pressing strength suffers. And on the flip side, if your biceps are underdeveloped, your pulling movements like rows and pull-ups are less efficient. That means balanced arm training isn't just about looking good, it's about performing better in the gym overall. And performance over time feeds directly into growth. Stronger lifts equal more tension on the muscle, which equals more adaptation and more size. So by training both sides of your arm equally, you're not just building symmetry, you're building the foundation for long-term gains. Now, let's tackle a common mistake. People assume that because the triceps are bigger, they need completely different treatment than biceps. But the truth is, both muscles respond to the same principles: volume, intensity, frequency, and progression. What changes is how you apply those principles. For biceps, curling movements in various angles and ranges are your bread and butter. For triceps, pressing and extending movements from different positions will do the trick. So balance doesn't mean doing the exact same exercises for each. It means applying the same level of thought, effort, and progression to both muscle groups. It's like building two pillars that hold up a roof. If one is shorter, the whole structure looks crooked and unstable. Think of it like this. If you were a sculptor chiseling a statue, you wouldn't just work on one side of the figure and leave the other untouched. That would look ridiculous. In the same way, when you sculpt your arms, you're shaping them from all angles. Biceps give you that front-facing peak, that flexed look. Triceps give you the horseshoe on the back, the thickness, the silhouette that makes your arms look impressive even when they're relaxed by your sides. When both are developed equally, the arms look full, round, and athletic. When one lags, the imbalance is obvious. People might not consciously know why, but they'll notice something looks off. Here's another way to think about it. Balance in arm training is like balance in nutrition. If you only eat protein and ignore carbs and fats, you're not fueling your body properly. You'll run into problems down the line. Low energy, stalled progress, maybe even injury. Same with arms. If you only train biceps and neglect triceps, you're limiting your potential, leaving gains on the table and setting yourself up for weak points that will hold back your progress. And the longer you let that imbalance grow, the harder it is to correct later. So why not just do it right from the start? Let's also talk about the mental side of this. Biceps are fun to train. They're the show muscle, the one that gets compliments. Triceps, on the other hand, don't give you the same pump or the same mirror satisfaction right away. That's why so many people neglect them. But if you can shift your mindset and start treating triceps as the priority muscle for arms, your progress will explode. You'll notice shirts fitting differently, your pressing lifts feeling stronger, and that overall sense of complete arms starting to show. It's delayed gratification, but it pays off big time. So the bottom line here is this: balanced arm training is non-negotiable. If you want sculpted arms that turn heads and also perform under the bar, you cannot afford to treat biceps as the main event and triceps as an afterthought. Both muscles are equally important, but remember, triceps make up most of the size and biceps give the peak. Together, they create that complete three-dimensional look. Train them both with intention, track your progress, and keep balance at the forefront of your programming. That's how you move from average arms to sculpted, powerful arms that stand out. When it comes to sculpting arms, the second key point is absolutely crucial: exercise selection. A lot of people think arm training is just about picking up a barbell, doing some curls, and maybe finishing off with a couple of triceps pushdowns. Sounds simple, but the reality is far more nuanced. If your goal is to build arms that are not only bigger but also look balanced and sculpted from every angle, then the exercises you choose and the way you use them will make all the difference. The science here is pretty straightforward. Muscles don't just work in one way. They operate through different ranges of motion, and if you only hit them in one spot, you're leaving huge amounts of growth potential behind. Think about the biceps first. Most people just do standing barbell curls, and sure, that's a solid exercise. It's been around forever for a reason. But here's the problem. That movement mostly trains the biceps in their mid-range of motion. What about the lengthened position when the muscle is fully stretched? What about the shortened position when you squeeze at the top? If you never challenge the muscle there, you're essentially telling it, hey, just grow a little bit in the middle, but don't bother with the rest. And the body responds exactly to the demands you place on it. That's why incline curls, where your arms hang behind your torso, are fantastic. They stretch the biceps under load, which is one of the most powerful stimuli for growth. On the other side, concentration curls or spider curls put the biceps in a fully shortened position, forcing them to contract hard at the top. So when you mix these with your standard curls, you're covering the whole spectrum: stretch, mid-range, and peak contraction. That's how you turn flat-looking biceps into biceps that have shape and depth. Now let's move to the triceps, which, as we've already discussed, make up the majority of the arm's mass. The same principle applies. Different exercises hit different parts of the range of motion. Take the classic cable pushdown, for example. It's a great way to hit the triceps in their shortened range. You get that strong lockout, the squeeze at the bottom, and the burn that makes you feel like your arms are on fire. But that's only part of the equation. To train the triceps effectively, you also need movements that stretch them fully. Overhead extensions. Whether with a dumbbell, an EZ bar, or a cable, put the triceps in that lengthened position. When you lower the weight behind your head and feel that deep stretch, that's where you're telling the muscle to grow in a way pushdowns alone can't accomplish. Add in close grip bench presses or dips, and now you've got a well-rounded approach. Stretch, mid-range, and shortened work for the triceps, just like the biceps. One of the biggest mistakes I see is people picking their arm exercises based on what feels easy or what makes them look good in the mirror mid-set. But here's the truth. If you're serious about sculpting your arms, you can't just chase the pump or stick to the movements you're comfortable with. You need a strategic variety. That doesn't mean you should be switching up exercises every single workout like a fitness influencer trying to show off 20 secret moves. Consistency still matters. What it does mean is choosing a set of exercises that complement each other, that collectively train the muscles across their full function. Think of it as building a complete toolbox. A hammer is great, but if that's all you use, you'll never finish the job. You need the screwdriver, the wrench, and the drill too. Another point to keep in mind is individual fit. Not every exercise works perfectly for every lifter. Some people get elbow pain from skull crushers, while others can't feel barbell curls hitting their biceps no matter how hard they try. That doesn't mean arm training is impossible. It just means you need to find the variations that fit your structure and stick to them. If incline curls wreck your shoulders, try dumbbell preacher curls instead. If dips bother your shoulders, swap them out for a close grip bench press. Evidence-based training isn't about dogma, it's about principles. The principle here is covering the ranges of motion and challenging the muscles from multiple angles. The exact exercises you choose can be tailored to you as long as they follow the principle. Now let's address the psychology of exercise selection. A lot of people want to believe that one magic exercise is the key to massive arms. What's the best curl, or what's the one triceps move I should do? That mindset is limiting. Muscles are complex tissues that respond to a combination of tension, stretch, and contraction. No single exercise can do it all. The real secret is variety within structure. 2 or 3 smartly chosen exercises per muscle group, rotated through different ranges of motion, done consistently and progressed over time. That's what builds arms that look like they've been carved out of stone. So let's piece this all together. For biceps, you might structure your training around incline curls for the stretch, barbell or dumbbell curls for the mid-range, and spider curls for the peak. For triceps, you might go with overhead extensions for the stretch, close grip bench presses for mid-range pressing strength, and cable pushdowns for the peak contraction. You don't need 15 different moves. You just need enough to cover the bases intelligently. When you train like this, you're not just hoping your arms grow, you're engineering growth by giving your muscles no choice but to adapt in every possible way. At the end of the day, exercise selection isn't about flash, it's about function. The right mix of movements will shape your arms from every angle, add thickness, bring out definition, and create that balanced, sculpted look everyone's after. If you're skipping this step and just winging it with whatever exercise looks cool, you're not training. You're just working out, and there's a big difference. The goal isn't to feel busy in the gym, it's to get results. Intelligent exercise selection is what separates people spinning their wheels from those walking around with arms that look and perform like they were built on purpose. Progressive overload is the engine that drives all muscle growth. And when it comes to sculpting arms, this principle is non-negotiable. You can pick the perfect exercises, have the most balanced program between biceps and triceps, and even train with textbook technique. But if you're not progressing over time, your arms are going to stay the same size. Muscles don't just grow because you want them to or because you're working hard. They grow because they're forced to adapt to demands greater than what they've experienced before. That's the fundamental law of training, and if you ignore it, you're basically just treading water in the gym. Here's the simplest way to put it. If you're curling the same weight for the same reps month after month, your biceps have no reason to get bigger. They've already adapted to that level of stress. The body is efficient. It doesn't build extra muscle tissue unless it absolutely has to. And the same goes for your triceps. If you're still doing the same pushdowns with the same pin on the cable stack you used last year, don't expect your arms to look any different. Progressive overload is your way of telling your body, hey, we need more muscle because what we've got isn't enough to handle this workload. Now, a lot of people think progressive overload only means adding more weight to the bar. And while that's a great way to progress, it's not the only way. If you always chase heavier weights without paying attention to form, all you'll end up with is sloppy reps. And maybe even an injury. Progression can come in multiple forms. More reps with the same weight, more sets, slower tempos to increase time under tension, or even shorter rest periods to increase density of work. All of these are tools in the progressive overload toolbox, and the best lifters know how to rotate between them depending on their training phase and recovery capacity. Let's make this concrete with an example. Say you're doing incline dumbbell curls with 25 pounds for 10 reps. If next week you hit 11 reps with that same weight, guess what? That's progressive overload. If the week after that, you manage 12 reps, that's overload again. Now, once you can hit 12 or 13 solid reps, maybe you move up to 30-pound dumbbells and start the cycle over at 8 or 9 reps. That's a classic, simple progression model that has built countless impressive arms. On the triceps side, say you're doing overhead extensions with 50 pounds for 12 reps. Over the next few weeks, you push that up to 14 reps, then 15 reps. Eventually, you go to 60 pounds and bring the reps back down, working your way up again. It's gradual, it's patient, and it works every single time if you stick with it. The key here is consistency. You can't just add weight randomly when you feel like it. You have to track your lifts, know what you did last week, and make sure you're pushing just a little bit further this week. Too many lifters rely on instinct in the gym. They grab whatever weight feels right that day and just go for it. The problem with that is there's no structure, no record of improvement. If you're serious about sculpted arms, you need to treat your training like an experiment. Write things down, track numbers, and push yourself against your own past performance. That's how you make measurable progress instead of just guessing. Now, it's also worth addressing the other side of the coin. Some people push overload too aggressively, thinking more weight equals faster growth. But muscles don't just need overload, they need overload within the context of good technique. If your curls turn into wild body swings or your pushdowns become half reps with momentum, you're not actually overloading your biceps or triceps, you're just moving more weight with worse form. The stimulus on the muscle isn't greater, it's actually less. So real progressive overload isn't just more weight at all costs, it's more effective work for the target muscle over time. That might mean staying with the same weight for weeks, but squeezing out cleaner reps, better contractions, and fuller ranges of motion. That's still progress, and your arms will thank you for it. One of the beautiful things about progressive overload is that it compounds over time. Imagine you add just 1 rep to your bicep curls each week. Doesn't sound like much, right? But in 10 weeks, that's 10 extra reps. At that point, you're either handling more weight or doing significantly more volume with the same weight. Over a year, those small increases add up to massive progress. Most people underestimate the power of these small, steady improvements. They're looking for shortcuts or hacks, when really, all they need is the discipline to beat their previous numbers week after week, month after month. Progressive overload also teaches you patience and humility. You're not going to jump 30 pounds on your curls overnight. Sometimes you'll go weeks barely squeezing out 1 extra rep. But that's the grind of real training, and that's what separates the people who actually build sculpted arms from the people who talk about it. Growth isn't linear, and sometimes you'll stall. That's okay, as long as you're committed to the principle of overload, finding some way, however small, to increase the challenge over time. You'll keep moving forward. The last piece of this puzzle is recovery. Overload only works if your body can recover from it. If you're constantly adding volume and weight, but not giving your arms enough rest, you're going to burn out or regress. That's why progressive overload needs to be applied intelligently. Push hard, yes, but also listen to your body, take deloads when necessary, back off when your joints are screaming, and remember that overload is a long-term strategy. You're not trying to max out every workout, you're trying to string together years of small improvements that build into something remarkable. At the end of the day, progressive overload is the backbone of arm training, or any training for that matter. It's the guarantee that if you put in the work, track your progress, and demand just a little more from your muscles each time, they will adapt. They have no choice. That's the beauty of it. Muscles are honest. They don't care about motivation, hype, or how you feel. They respond to stress, they adapt to overload, and they grow when you consistently push the line forward. Sculpted arms aren't the product of magic exercises or secret supplements. They're the product of progressive overload, applied patiently, intelligently, and relentlessly over time. Recovery is the unsung hero of muscle growth. And when it comes to sculpting arms, this might be the most overlooked factor of all. Most people think the more curls and pushdowns they do, the faster their arms will grow. They chase volume, they hammer their arms every single day, and they confuse soreness with progress. But here's the truth, muscles don't grow in the gym. They grow when you're resting, eating, and recovering. The training session is just the stimulus, the spark. The actual growth happens afterward, when your body repairs and adapts. If you're skipping recovery, you're basically pouring water on that spark before it has a chance to turn into fire. Think of training as digging a hole. Every set, every rep, every workout, you're digging a little deeper. Recovery is the process of filling that hole back in and building it up higher than it was before. If you keep digging without ever filling, eventually you're just stuck in a pit. You're tired, sore, and not making any progress. That's exactly what happens when people overtrain their arms. They think more is always better, but in reality, more is only better up to the point that you can recover from it. Beyond that, you're just spinning your wheels. Let's start with rest days. Your arms don't need to be trained every single day to grow. In fact, hammering them too often will almost guarantee that they won't grow. Muscles need at least 48 hours, sometimes even 72 hours to recover fully after a tough workout. If you curl Monday and then hit curls again on Tuesday, you're cutting into that recovery window. Instead of growing, your muscles are still trying to repair the damage from yesterday. That's why smart programming usually involves training arms directly 2 or 3 times a week, with enough time in between to let them bounce back stronger. It's not laziness, it's biology. Now let's talk about sleep. If there's one thing that will sabotage your progress faster than anything else, it's not sleeping enough. Sleep is when the majority of muscle recovery happens. Growth hormone spikes, protein synthesis ramps up, and your body gets to work rebuilding the muscle fibers you broke down in training. If you're only sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night, I don't care how perfect your curls are, your arms aren't going to grow the way you want them to. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. That's not a luxury. That's a requirement if you're serious about sculpted arms. Nutrition is the other pillar of recovery. And here's where a lot of people mess up. They train hard but eat like birds, then wonder why their arms look the same year after year. To build muscle, you need protein. It's the raw material your body uses to repair and grow muscle fibers. Without enough protein, recovery simply doesn't happen. But it's not just about protein. Carbohydrates matter too because they replenish glycogen stores in your muscles, fueling your next workout. Fats are important for hormone production, which plays a big role in growth and recovery. So recovery nutrition isn't just about slamming a protein shake after your workout, it's about consistently eating enough of the right foods to support your training. Hydration is another overlooked piece. Muscles are mostly water, and even slight dehydration can impair recovery and performance. If you're training hard but not drinking enough water, you're handicapping yourself. It's like trying to drive a car with the gas light on. Sure, you might get by for a little while, but eventually you're going to stall out. Keep your hydration in check, and you'll notice better pumps, better performance, and better recovery overall. Let's also talk about the nervous system. Training arms might not seem as taxing as heavy squats or deadlifts, but make no mistake, when you're pushing for progressive overload, you're still stressing your nervous system. That system also needs time to recover. If you're constantly fried, mentally drained, or lacking motivation to train, that's not just laziness. That's your body's way of saying, hey, we need a break. Recovery isn't just about muscles, it's about your whole system. Taking a deload week every few months, where you scale back intensity and volume, can actually accelerate your long-term progress. It gives your body and mind a chance to recharge so you can come back stronger. Now, here's a hard truth. Recovery requires patience, and most people don't want to hear that. They want results yesterday. So they train arms every chance they get, thinking they can speed up the process. But muscle growth doesn't work on your schedule. It works on your body's schedule. You can't rush biology. What you can do is create the best possible conditions for growth. Train hard, then step back and let recovery do its job. It's like planting a seed. You water it, give it sunlight, and wait. You don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. That would kill it. Muscles are the same way. Train, feed them, rest, and give it time. Another piece of recovery that doesn't get enough credit is stress management. Your body doesn't separate training stress from life stress. If you're constantly stressed out from work, relationships, or lack of sleep, your recovery will suffer. Cortisol levels stay elevated, your body stays in a catabolic state, and muscle growth slows down. That's why lifestyle balance matters. It's not about being perfect, but if your life is chaos outside the gym, don't expect optimal results inside the gym. Sometimes the best thing you can do for your arms isn't another set of curls. It's shutting off your phone, going for a walk, or just getting to bed an hour earlier. So let's put all this together. Recovery is where the magic happens. Without it, training is just stress. Without adaptation. With it, every rep, every set, and every workout builds on the last. Rest days allow your muscles to heal and grow stronger. Sleep gives your body the environment it needs to recover. Nutrition provides the building blocks for repair. Hydration keeps the system running smoothly. Stress management keeps your hormones in check. Intelligent programming ensures you're not doing too much or too little. When all these factors line up, recovery becomes your greatest ally, and that's when sculpted arms actually appear. At the end of the day, recovery isn't optional. It's part of the training process. Training breaks you down. Recovery builds you up, and together they create progress. If you neglect recovery, you're sabotaging half the equation. But if you embrace it, if you train hard, recover smart, and stay consistent, you'll unlock the real potential of your arms. Not just bigger, not just stronger, but sculpted in a way that shows you didn't just work out, you trained with purpose, and you gave your body the time it needed to reward you for that effort.